Cool. So does everyone have Node installed on your laptops? Version 4? Okay, sweet. So who has experience with web apps? Show of hands. Who's built a web app or knows what a web app is? 1, 2, 3, 4-ish. All right, cool. So I guess we should start now. Welcome to the first series or first workshop in our main stack series of workshops. Just as a background, I'll get to what we're doing in a bit. As a background, I'm Kurt. I'm a CS student at Mac, co-founder of an app called Stigma and Woof. I've done iOS and JavaScript development for the last 2 to 3 years, and I'm really into big data. If any of you are, hit me up after.
Did you leave it at
Yeah.
Cool. Hey guys, I'm Sean. I am 5th year Sean. Anyone in Sean? Yeah, so I work as a software developer at a place called Conrad Group. Software development firm that does web and mobile apps for like McDonald's, Discovery Canada, Morgan Canada, whoever. I'm also an educator at Wing Station in Toronto. So we're a hacker school. So I teach this stuff for a living, I guess, as well. And I'm a big iOS and JavaScript guy, so I'll be here for a lot of it. I'm not going to be doing a lot of the Node stuff. I'm going to do the Angular stuff later, so some of the cool front-end stuff. And possibly we might be doing an iOS workshop, so we'll talk about interests later. So
Who would be interested in learning iOS and being part of that workshop? Cool.
How many of you who just said that don't have a Mac?
All right, so we're starting with the mean stack. Do you guys get what a stack is, or is that an unfamiliar term? Yes, no. I'll explain what a stack is. So a stack is a series of software layers together to work to deliver a final application. So mean is made up of Mongo, Express, Angular, and Node. Have you heard of any of those terms or softwares? Yeah. All right. MongoDB is your database. Unlike normal databases, which are SQL, MongoDB takes on something called NoSQL in the sense that you store documents. Everything's based around a document instead of rows. So we're going to get into that more, but we'll talk about Express. Express is a web framework. Have any of you heard of Rails? Ruby on Rails. You get how that works? Requests come in, Rails handles it, and gives a response. We're going to use something called Express, which is similar to Rails, but made for Node, and it's all written in JavaScript. Angular is a client-side model view controller framework that's commonly used for web applications. So are you unfamiliar with model view controllers, or do you get what that means?
A lot of people don't have any background. So
No.
just go through
What's your background level, so I can get an understanding of what to teach and how we should approach this?
Has anyone ever made a web app? There you go.
Server-side code? Has anyone written? Okay. And mobile, like iOS or Android? You're a star developer. Okay, so Node.js is a server on the back end that's written completely in JavaScript, and we're going to get more into that right now. MongoDB, like I mentioned earlier, it's document-oriented. Everything is stored as JSON. You query things as JSON. Your response is JSON. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Curly braces with key value pairs, key being the title of the attribute, attributes the value you're trying to get out. Dynamic schemas is something cool with MongoDB. Usually when you define your database, you define a table, you tell it the attributes, what type they are, what data to expect. When you put something else in that it doesn't conform to your schema, it gives you an error. What's cool with MongoDB is you can chuck anything in and it'll store it. It's all a document. It doesn't care what it is. It cares that it's a document. If types don't match, it's not going to give you a big error. If you throw a field that it hasn't seen before, it'll store it and you can query for it again after. As a relation to SQL, some of you might have seen, we have documents that refer to rows. So rows in a table. Tables are called collections. So you have collections of documents. Instead of joining two tables to get a set of data, you embed documents in other documents. So nested JSON. Is that clear? Ish. And references. Documents can reference another document instead of doing a foreign key. Topic. Shoot. Express.js. Express is a model view controller framework for Node. It's less opinionated than Rails, where you can configure what you want. You can make it do what you need, cut down to the bare minimum. So if you just want an API, you all know what an API is? We'll get to an API. Express can handle routing. So you make a GET request to an endpoint. You can tell it, how do I handle that? How do I handle for different endpoints and parameters in our request URLs? You can have controllers. So say you have an events endpoint, which is everything related to something called events. You can put them all in a controller and keep your code clean and clear and modular. View rendering is cool. Express allows you to have a bunch of different rendering engines. So sometimes you can do HTML. Have you heard of less to render HTML? There's different ways you can render your web views, whatever your browser will show up. Middleware is cool for Express because middleware is a little piece of code you put in between when you handle your request. So middleware can say, hey, every time a request comes in, let's clock it. Let's see what time the request comes in. Let's handle it. And let's add another piece of middleware on the way out and see how long it takes. Put another timer. So that's what middleware is, just functions you can put in between your request lifecycle. And configuration, like I said, you can cut down Express to the bare minimum or really make it complex if need be. Angular is cool. Angular has the same model view controller design, but it's meant for the web. Model view controller, I'll get into it now, is you have models, views, and controllers. Controllers handle code and update your view. Views are like your HTML in the front. You might have like an admin dashboard, which can list all the users in an app. Your model in that case is your users. All the users represent a single entity of a user. The view is HTML, and the controller is what sits in between and interacts with them. Is that clear? Should I get into that more? Okay. Cool parts about Angular is the same way you have controllers to keep your code clean, modular. Services are, how can I explain it easily? Services, you can wrap up an API. So say you have a thing that says get all users, you can put that in a user service. So every time you need to access it, you can just say, hey, give me my user service and give me all the data I need about it, whether it's all the users, searching for users, adding a user, deleting a user, that can all get bundled up in services. Directives is another cool feature about Angular. They're basically functions on HTML DOM elements. Do you guys know what an HTML DOM element is? So the DOM is the document object model of HTML. So that's divs and attributes and all the different parts of HTML. But now imagine you have this directive, which I said is a function you can call on that. You can have a DOM that can say, or a div that says ng show. Ng is just a preface for Angular. You can say ng show if something. So now you can call these functions on different DOM elements. So say you can check if something is null. If it's not null, you want to show it. So that way in your controller, if some variable isn't null, it'll show or it won't show based on that. It just makes your code really easy to write and some flexibility that you don't have in normal HTML. Dependency injection, we'll get into that more, but if you want to Google that on your own time, it's really cool. We're going to get to that once we get to Angular. Two-way data binding, it's wicked because you have these variables which hold values. You can use, anytime you update that variable, the variable will be updated in the code, in the HTML. So as you're writing stuff, you can see it show up in the HTML. And if you delete it from a text input box, per se, it'll remove. They're binded together and they'll always represent the same state. Templates, same way as in Express, you can render your variables and data into a template and show it. They're reusable components that you can use throughout your code. And Node. Node is the code that you write on your server side. In this case, Express.js sits on top of Node. Node is a web server. Express.js will handle the routing. It takes in the request. But really, at the very end of the day, Node takes in the request, gives it to Express. Express will handle it and gives out a response. Node is completely single-threaded. Everything is asynchronous. So we have callback functions. Callback means you tell the processor to do some work. When it's ready, it lets the server know. When the data is ready, it then returns it to the client. In this case, if it wasn't asynchronous and you were single-threaded, you can only do one request at a time. One request processes, completes, then returns, and you're waiting. You have this huge gap in between the processing time where no other requests are being processed. All I/O is non-blocking. That means everything you do can run on the background, and Express or Node is open to take more requests coming in. Node Package Manager. Has anyone used Ruby Gems for Rails? Basically, NPM is a package manager that comes with Node, and it offers a variety of packages from us, everything you need. And it's super simple to install. You just run npm install and the package name. And that brings it into your project, and you can use it very simply. So why do we use Mean? The stack is super simple. We're using the same language on all parts of it, same objects. Your MongoDB will return a JSON object, which your JavaScript on the front end can understand simply, and your iOS, and everything can just natively understand the data you're passing through. It's great for hackathons. There's a bunch of tutorials and boilerplate code. It's actually really good for hackathons when you're trying to do authentication, like sign in with Facebook. There's templates already made. You don't have to waste your time setting that up, setting up your database, setting up your schemas, to start tossing in data and take out what data you need. For those like 5-minute presentations, you don't want to worry about making a strict schema that'll say no and reject data. You just want to throw things in and make it work. And it's super easy to get started. So for this workshop series, we want to develop an event discovery application. What this will entail is a backend, a front end, and a mobile client. For mobile, we want to make an iOS app where the users can list all the events that we have in our directory and search for events. We want to have a front end written in Angular where admins can create events, update events, and remove events. For our use case, events are going to be simple name, description, and a time. We're using these because a name you can filter for, time you can give it a date range. In a more complex version, we'll have image uploading, so you can put a poster for an event. For the backend, to support this application, we'll have Node, which is running our application server, and we'll put Express on top of that. So anytime someone requests a listing of all our events, Express will take it, it'll handle it, and will return the correct data needed. Mongo will be our database. We'll make a schema called events and throw data in there. Give it the name, title, date. Cool. So if we were to build this, now we're done with the slides. What do you think the parts would be and how they would interact? Do you guys know how an iOS app would interact with our Express server on the stack? Okay, so let's imagine we have an event, our server here. Now you have an iOS app over here. Somehow we need to get our event listings from here to here. What we're going to do is make a request to the server. We'll say we want all events. The server has to understand this request. So we need to create some sort of routing that says, hey, someone's requesting all our events. How are we going to handle that? So who has heard of REST or RESTful APIs? Do you know what the methods are of REST? There's get, post, put, and delete. Perfect. So those RESTful methods all refer to CRUD actions, which are create, read, update, delete. So So anytime we want to create something on our backend, we have the create method or the create CRUD. So we want to create something, we're going to post to our backend. So post is an HTTP verb that is a RESTful verb, which means we tell the server, hey, we're doing a post to some endpoint. Do you know what an endpoint is? So when we have our server, we say maybe API.google.com. And we can tell it, hey, we want to create, say, a search, right? So we can do a post to /search with some data, and that could be query. Can you guys see this? Yes, no?
Yeah, it's good.
So for this one, we're doing a post to the /search. So if you imagine this part over here was brought to this point over here. So you would do a post to api.google.com/search, and in your body of your post request, you have a query field. This is JSON, and you have a query field and what you're searching for. You're searching here. And you can do this format for all these different RESTful API methods. So post, get, put, and delete. To go back and just reiterate, this is to create new entities on the server, like your database. You want to create a new event, or create a new user. To read them all, you want to get all the events, or you want to get an event at this time, you would do a get. To update events, you would do a put. Put is different than post because put modifies entities that are already in the database, that already exist and that live on the server. And to delete, we would just use delete. So now we know that this iOS is sending a request for all events. In this case, we could do get on events. So let's just say and then the server would see it. We would tell it, we would give it some code to handle this when this came in. And what we can do is, once the server knows how to handle that, this can return, it can return JSON of the event. So say there's only one event in the database, we could just say an event has a name, something, and so on. And this is going as JavaScript, coming back. Any questions so far where we're at? I can answer any questions. All right. So this would be for our iOS app. We're going to be listing a bunch of these endpoints. Our endpoints are basically how data can be routed from our server to different clients. So right now, this is our mobile client, and we'll have a full directory of API endpoints for signing new users up, deleting a user, changing passwords, listing events, searching for events. All of these will have their own endpoint that will have certain parameters that need to be entered. So as an example, here in the post to the search endpoint, we can say this query parameter is needed for this to return a response. If a query parameter is not included, we can give a 400 error saying missing parameter. If you want to Google this later on, there's a whole bunch of RESTful API responses And those give you different 200, 300, 400, and 500 level responses. You guys have seen 500 error pages before, like 400 error pages. What those mean is that certain data is not available on the server, or the server doesn't know how to handle the request you've given it. So they all have a meaning, and they can all refer back to the RESTful directory. So we've also said that we want an Angular front end. So we're going to add the front end over here. And we can imagine this wants all the event listing, right? Same way, it's going to make a request over here for all events. And it's going to give back JSON with the event name and so on. So what's different about this part of the application is that Angular is a JavaScript file. Angular is code or is an application that lives completely on the client. The server can just send you the application, and then it starts executing in your web browser. So from there, when you're making this request, it's not coming from a device. It's literally coming from your web browser, from one of those controllers in Angular that we explained before. It says, hey, I need all this data, all the events, and it will make a request. And then the server, again, will give it back the data. What we need, though, before Angular starts is a way for the server to give the client, the user, the Angular app. So usually what happens is when you go to Instagram.com, that's a web application. As soon as you go to Instagram.com, the web application is sent to the client, and then it requests all the pictures. It requests your Instagram feed. So what happens first in this stuff is that you go to a website, they'll send you the HTML and everything, including your Angular application and the Angular source code, which is just a minified small JavaScript file, which then starts executing in your web browser. Once your application, your Angular app is started in your web browser, it then will make a request, hey, I need all this data. And there's different ways to do web applications. We're doing what's called a single page application, SPA, where everything lives on your client. Different ways people do it are they have server-side rendered pages. So say you request all events, it goes back here and it sends you the full HTML rendered already, where each DOM element, you can say, has the event or has a picture already on it. In this case, we have those templates on Angular, and it says, hey, when all my Instagram pictures come, let's map each one of these to a template we already know and display it. So if you think about it, you're scrolling down your feed for the last like 24 hours. Instead of having your server do that, we just send only the data we need, and we keep reusing templates. This drops our overhead. So when you're building mobile apps and mobile clients, we're not transferring that much data every time. We're only transferring what we need at that time. You guys want to start writing some code? Yeah? All right, let's do that. Is this clear though, what we're building, how we're gonna get there? So what do you guys think the first step is that we should do next? What's like the rock fundamental to get this all going and start moving on this project? Correct, so that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna set up, does everyone have Node running, working? Do you all want to check that you have NPM? If you run NPM on your command line, see if it returns anything. Fix all my spelling mistakes. Yeah. Anyone not have NPM or Node? Okay, so next what we're going to do is install Express. since Express is a piece of software that we want to use throughout our computers, we're going to use the -G command over here. So this says install the node package Express globally. So if you guys all want to run that and make sure it works. This is going to be funny on yours.
It'll be funny when it asks for my password.
Everyone good for Express? Has it installed? Sweet. So now just create a folder, maybe on your desktop. Yeah. Which one? Oh, npm install -G Express. Again, this is installing Express globally on your computer. Yes.
Yeah, you do. Okay, well.
Do sudo if you have to.
Wait, all right. Wait, so can I erase that? I'll just write it on the board.
Yeah, sure.
Doesn't Express never come with the Express generator?
I don't use that sometimes. I just use Express in there.
Oh, you use Express in there. Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
Okay, true. Pro.
Did it work for you?
What?
What's up? Got an error?
No, just do.
You did too?
Do sudo. Do sudo. No, the sudo oh, which one are you? Wait, did you do the dash? Oh no, she was doing the dash. It's like a straight line, not that oh no, you do the dash. Yeah. It's a straight line. Straight line. You did that.
If you need help, raise your hand.
Oh, should we do a sudo on Windows?
I think you should.
Okay.
You run the.
Oh, you that's your password.
Just Windows.
Okay, never mind. You know what? Don't use sudo. I lied. Does that mean success?
You already have no.
Everyone here.
All right, is everyone good so far? Still working? So the next command, I'll help you guys out if you're still on the last one, is express init. So once you're in a folder you want to work with, so you don't clutter up your directories, you want to run express init. I'm calling our app workshop. And what this does is it's saying express to initialize a new application called workshop. When you run this, you're going to see a bunch of lines come up. Wow, look at that. And this is going to be debugging time. Password, bro.
Password 1, 2.
Oh, that's not it.
Password 1.
1.
Oh, password 22.
Oh, wow, so safe. Yeah.
Yes.
Nope.
I have to change my password. I have to install it locally as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Try doing npm install global express hyphen generator.
Hyphen generator. We were gonna avoid the generators, but we can try that. Did the express init work for everyone else?
No.
Are you guys getting the same error?
Okay,
I
great.
have to do sudo app dash get node dash.
I guess this must be node 4.
Yeah. Must be
Yeah,
because-
for express 4.0 and express.
Okay.
Can we still use express init?
You should be able to do that, right?
So recently, Node was updated.
Yep,
to
that's it.
version
Cool.
4.0, and
So you want to run this command instead. So no, express just changed from version 3 to 4, and apparently there's dependency breaking commands. Generator. Hyphen generator.
Sudo npm.
So we're gonna go back and do this one.
You need help?
This is why it's not on my computer.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun.
Do you have to use sudo for
You can try using it. The thing is,
You can.
it's not the best idea, but it works. So
Oh, okay, true. Do you remember your password? Like, what's your password to your computer? Because you just typed that in. Oh, no, you're typing it, but it just doesn't show.
So did the express init now
Yeah.
work for you guys?
Or it is, right?
it won't like show.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, just type it in. Try it again. Yeah. Oh.
So you'll see all this what happened over here. And this is Express just creating your basic file structure for you to work with. We see created a init, it created a package.json. We're going to look at all these files. It created app.js, public, JavaScript images, style sheets. If you've done server-side stuff, you know anything in the public folder is for web. Routes, which we're going to talk about. Our routes are all the endpoints we're going to create. And views. We mentioned different templating engines like HTML, less. There's a couple different ways to write HTML without being so verbose and writing all those brackets. So what this one uses something called Jade. We'll look at it. I personally don't like it, but some people might be interested in it. Oh, you didn't put.
Sorry, I don't have to lie. Well, Adam. Well, Adam or go Ben.
No, you have to put the path of the
Try it without the system. Says error. Try Node dash V. Sure. Actually, work.
So are you guys all at the same point right now? Where code is like this? Yeah. What's up?
So I typed in the, and it works.
Yep. And then you want to run it.
And can you
So did the init work for everyone? Creating your new Express application? No, it didn't.
Where you create paste in.
Yes, Alexa, I use this read. So making folders. Well, because you already have a folder. Yeah, all the copies. If I look on the side like this folder doesn't pop it.
All right, so our next step, like it says in the directions, is once all the files are created, you want to cd into that new directory called init, and then you want to run the command npm install. You want to write that on the board?
Is anyone having trouble? Just put your hand up.
Okay, close the shell and then just build the scope. Yeah, you need to restart the shell for it.
I'm not actually those guys. Very zero.
So did this work for everyone? Did the npm install work for everyone?
Not on Windows.
We're gonna fix Windows. Yeah. So cd to init npm install. Did the install go through all the files and grab the dependencies? So was everyone able to get this part to show up on your terminals?
So do we just type in npm start after npm install?
Yeah. Running npm start after you do your npm install will start your server. You'll have your Express server up and running in your computer.
You have to install the Express server.
It should already be installed globally when you did it, right?
I installed it locally, but when I
Because like what you did was you did the index.
This is saying that.
So you beat the actual folder to
Where, oh, okay.
and just do the
So you go, then if you go to your editor, and then you want to run npm install. npm install.
doesn't give me errors, so I guess that's
Just the Mac. That's the Mac.
So once you have your npm start working, if you go to your web browser, you go to localhost port 3000, you will see your Express application. Oh, shit.
So, see, where are you actually? Okay. So I'm gonna make a folder on your desktop, okay? So I don't clutter your. Express. Workshop.
Will it just say Express? Welcome to Express.
Yeah, perfect. So to get everyone up to that point, how's it coming over here? You good? Shut
Oh, yeah, what's up?
Yep.
Start.
Okay. So one is
Start.
localhost port 3000.
I love
So
that
our
video.
server is going to run on a specific port.
I should link some Unix.
If you go to your terminal, wait that for to load. Was everyone able to get this running? So what that means is now, remember how we said you can make web requests to your server? This is making a web request saying, hey, localhost means on my internal machine, not SMS already support. So it hits your own machine instead of sending it to the actually, you don't have to look at the web browser. So now you're taking it from my local computer. Domain you say whatever application, whatever's receiving requests from 3000, send my request out. Yours working? Okay, perfect. There you go. Over and no. You're working? You're good? Cool. Has anyone not been able to get their server just by that?
Oh, you got that screen, nice. Yeah, thanks, hello. Yeah. But I was gonna check something else.
Install dash express dash.
Yeah, that's.
Oh.
So have you guys all loaded up your server and gone to the localhost port 3000?
Still waiting. Still loading it. That Windows life, eh? Try that. Maybe retry restarting your server. Restarting your server, so your command line. Closing it and then reopening it. Maybe try running it as an admin. Because what the server could happen is it's trying to read a file off your computer, which is your public HTML file, but the server might not have permissions to read it. So try running it as an administrator, restarting your server, and then requesting it again. Okay, so just want to control C or dash K. How do you quit? Yeah, as soon as you hit Control C, you request it. How do you quit? How do you close something on command line Windows? Do you know how to? I don't know. It works wrong. Oh, have you never started?
Are you all at state right now? Everyone? Yeah? No? So if you take a look at your terminals now, after going to the localhost port 2000, Express served up some HTML, basic text. But if you look at your command line, you'll see the GET request coming in. Over here. You'll notice there's 200 codes, 400, 304, they all have meanings. Because we haven't given it a fave icon, which usually shows up in the corner, it's given a 404. And 404 is file not found. So it does return the response for the request, but gives it a status node telling it what's wrong on the server's end. So now what we want to do is to get started on our application is build some routes so that when we say get /events, the server will give up all the events we have in our database. Our next workshop is going to have actually building the database, putting events in. But right now, what we can do is start to create some endpoints so that the server can handle it next week. What we'll do first before that is go through the files that Express created so we kind of understand what's going on in this huge application structure. So every Express application or NPM application should have a thing called package.json. It's almost like a manifest file telling it what's the name of the application, what's the version, what do we have to do to run it, and what dependencies are needed for it to run correctly. So here we see dependencies of body parser, cookie parser, Express, Jade, Morgan, this fave icon, and we tell it what version number we want to use in our application. When you guys ran npm install over here, where was it? npm install, because you were in your folder, in this folder, what it did was it went to the package.json. It saw all the dependencies that you listed or that Express listed the application needing, and it went out and fetched those. So when that little angle bracket was spinning around, what it was doing was grabbing all these dependencies and loading them in. When it grabs a dependency, it loads them into this node modules folder. These are all the modules that you've installed into your application. And the reason we do this is because when you want to upload your application to GitHub per se, you want to avoid uploading this node modules folder. It's just a bunch of deeply, 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 deeply nested code that can go on forever almost. So to avoid that, all we really need to know is that we need these packages, body parser, cookie parser. So you usually git ignore this folder when you're uploading. You guys know how to use Git? GitHub, you used it. Would it be good for us to mention it to you next time? An intro to Git? Cool. Sweet. We avoid uploading this folder. So Git is just like a source code repository and tracking system. So you can track changes you make when you're writing your code. We avoid uploading this file because when someone downloads your code, they can run npm install, get the right packages, save all that bandwidth, save the time. We have a public folder. Public is where we store files that we want to serve to the web. So we did localhost 3000. As you could tell, there was some font when it said Express. We define the font over here in the public folder. We also have views. We have a basic view. As I mentioned, you have different ways to template your HTML. This one is called Jade. So instead of having .html, we have .jade. And as you can see here, it has a title and a welcome to title. This way, you mentioned controllers can have variables and your views can render them. Right now, there's a controller here that's telling it this is going to be a variable, and that's going to be a variable, and the variable's name is Express. So we're not going to get much into this view rendering on the server side. As you mentioned, Angular's client-side rendering. So we're actually going to go through this folder in a couple of seconds.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, we should probably like tell them to like add.
What's up?
No, because like some of the files generated by Express. They don't
Oh,
have
we're
the
deleting
opt-out
so
list.
much stuff right now.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, I want to clean it all up.
Okay. Yeah, because like a lot of people didn't have the opt-out list in line, so like their server didn't start. It was just like the actual like.
You did do npm start, because npm start script we'll call it.
Oh.
Yeah, if
Okay. No, because
If you go here, it says npm start, we'll run node. Okay.
Oh.
Here's where the main application lives. Here's our app server that we just made, or that was created when we ran npm or express init. So we can see here, have any of you used JavaScript before? What percentage of you have JavaScript? All right. Does this code make sense to you? Like, JavaScript isn't too tricky, but do you guys understand what's going on? So over here, when you Node has a cool thing called require. Anytime you install a Node package that ends up in Node modules, you can require it, which will automatically go into the Node modules and grab these. If you remember from our package.json, we gave these as dependencies, body parser, cookie parser, Morgan, and whatnot. What we're saying is to require it. The first place is going to go look for these packages is in your Node modules folder. Express is our front-end application that Node's going to run. So when we tell Node to run this app.js file, what it's going to do is go grab the Express package, store it in a variable so we can use it. We call Express to do different things. And right now what we're doing is we're grabbing a bunch of other packages and storing them to a variable. Any questions so far? What's up? Yeah? In Sublime, you can go to project, yeah, or add folder to project. You can open the whole folder at once. So as we mentioned before, Express is very configuration friendly. You can make it do whatever you want. In this case, the most basic setup is telling us to use a logger. So anytime a request comes in, we'll log it, we'll see it. As you've seen in your terminal, it told us the status code, how long it took, what the route was, what the HTTP method was. This is why it's doing that. Body parser JSON. Anytime a request is made, there's the data that gets sent to the server or sent back to the client is put in the body. Here we're telling it to use a middleware that's called bodyparser.json. What this does is it encodes all the data in JSON format. Before we mention middleware, the way Express uses this middleware or these functions before requests get served are right now between lines 19 to 23, for example. We're telling our application, which we've defined as being a new Express application on line 11, we're telling our application to use this logger, to use this body parser, to use these functions as the middleware. So before any request comes in, we wanted to, hey, go to this thing, let the request run through here, do whatever it needs to do before it goes on to the next one. So any request is going to go through this full stack of functions before it gets to some endpoint, like here or here. Are there any questions? Am I going too fast, slow? Okay. This one is different. So what we saw when we went to the homepage of Express was, where was it? Express, welcome to Express. Now, how do we get there from just putting in localhost 3000? So when that request comes in, localhost 3000, it gets to the server. We imagine there's a request object coming in. Someone's asked for localhost 3000 / nothing. It goes all the way down. It sees the views. We log it over here. We take any data that comes as JSON in the body, any URL parameters, which we haven't included right now. Cookie parser, that means we give it a cookie. So do you guys know what cookies are? When you go to a website that says it stores cookies about you, basically you're like a unique person, a unique session. So cookie parser, what that does is as soon as you go there, it gives you a unique session. So next time you go back to the website, we can say, oh, user 123 is back again, or user 123's third time viewing it. And we can do things like, oh, now you have to wait 20 seconds before you can get the content. That's just the most basic way of doing it. But what we do here is we assign you a cookie as well. And now we see something called app.use, and we see / and routes. This is really where our routing happens. If we go back up and we wonder what is this routes that we just passed in, we see routes was required routes.index. And if we go back through our file structure and we say, hey, we required something called routes and index, what happens? Here is an Express router. So this tells Express what to do when certain websites or certain API endpoints have been reached. So at the most basic level, we just told it to get / and we're rendering this view called index. So if you go back to your views and you remember you saw index.j, that's a view template. That template has spaces for variables and whatnot to be presented to the user or the client. So what we're doing here is we're saying response. I'll go back to steps. Do you guys get what a request response is from a server? Does that make sense? So when we drew our diagram before, we had a server and we had the iPhone. We had arrows going both ways, right? One is a request to the server. So from the iPhone, it requests data from the server, and the server will send a response back to the iPhone. And we can imagine those two objects as being request and response in this function. So if you're not too well versed in asynchronous programming, I would say read up a little bit about that and how JavaScript handles callbacks. But for this case, we're saying when someone requests a /, we're going to create a function that takes in a request, a response, and a next object. Talk about that, and we want to handle it. So the way we're handling it in this case is we're saying for our response to render the index templates with this data. Again, this is just JavaScript or a JSON format. So we give it a title and we say express. So if we were to change this to save it, we'll restart our server and we go back. Yep. Oh, good call. To restart your server, you shut down your server. On Windows and Unix machines, it's Control-C. I think it might be the same on Windows, but I'm not too sure. So what we did was we closed our server. I just used the up key to get back to the last command, which was npm start. And we're telling it to start our server again. Enter. And now the page rendered is different with our new templated text. So what we can do is we can create different routes over here. We mentioned that there's get, post, put, delete, different RESTful API methods that we can call. Over here it says router.get. So most times when you go to a website, you go to google.com, you put in your browser, you hit enter. What it's saying is it's telling Google to do a get request to the endpoint, google.com, on port 80. We define our application to live on port 3000. Most web browsers in general, when you put anything into their bar, it requests on port 80. So that's why we specifically define it to go to port 3000. In our code, you know what, we're not going to go through that right now. Dun, dun, dun. So what we can do next is define some more routes. So we talked about building an event application where you can search for events, list events, create events. What we can do first is create a new route, a route handler that will allow a web browser to see events coming towards it. So in your routes folder, let's create a new file. We'll call it events.js. You can reuse code from in here. So what this is doing, we're going to add it into our app.js, but we've made a new route handler that's going to say, anytime someone goes to /events, the first thing they're going to get is a response called events. Because we're trying to get away from this templating and HTML, we just want to send a plain text to the client. So what we're doing at the very basic level is just sending it text saying events. That's it. This is again the response object, and this is a function on this response object. If you guys read up about Express, there's more details about what is the response object, what are the other parameters that it has inside it, and how can you interact with it? What can you set? So with HTML, and say sometimes you go to a website and you can only view it a certain amount of times in a minute, requests and responses have headers. So when your browser gets it, it can say, hey, you know what, I can't show this right now, or I can't request that again, or maybe I should cache it. You know what caching is? It just stores it on your browser so it doesn't have to request it again. You can set that all in your response object. So right now we can say response, and we can set a header and tell it to cache it for 20 minutes. So if we try requesting it again, the server is not even going to see a request. It's going to go back to what was stored on the server and display that. So have you all been able to do this? So now what we'll do is we're going to go back to our app.js, and we're going to create a new route for the events handler. So what we'll say is What this does is it loads that new event handler we had, or we just created, into a variable called events. Now, what we've said on line 28 is we've told our Express application to use our events router we just made anytime it sees the endpoint /events. Are you all at this point? So what we can do now is we save our files and make sure everything is saved and present. We will close our server again, restart it, and hope for the best. So now if you go to the new endpoint we just created. Yo.
Here's a question.
Okay, sure. Are you creating a new file? Yeah, come here, let's
Just like you go to a file and when you save it, you save it as it's like I'm building in there right now because I do things.
you want to copy that again? And then I'll put the code up on the screen so you can see what's there. Pardon? Okay, so in your, you want to create just a new text file. And you want to call it events.js. You want to copy it to events.js. Okay. Only difference is instead of member response, you set response so I'm just keeping some text. First parameters you say the one. I'll put those other file up over here. Found it. Does everyone have everything okay? Has everyone else been able to get the new route working? Yeah. Got it? Oh.
Yes, so
That was good.
yeah, I've done this.
Okay, response that's sent. And now you want to have we do over here. In our app.js file, our main server file, we required the new events controller we made, or the routing file we just made, and then we're telling the application to use that events router anytime it sees /events.
Oh, no. Oh, did you? right, you know what? Here, just go to like a link directory.
It's just the most simple way.
Anyway, yeah, just go to basically, I just want no, you just made it. You made it in the same bracket where you installed no. So like this is like express like it makes. So like express it basically makes no. So like it makes but it's like and then C NPM install is basically associated and the dependencies are all listed inside
There's like I'll grab Hello. Oh, no. I started I think it's good for today. Sure. I'm not sure either. So today was like an hour and a half. Or just to get basic, yeah.
Yeah, I'll make like. Yep.
That entire thing again. Install G
You have a really interesting first challenge on you guys are working?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I think we're done for today. We're still gonna have some other people haven't gotten their servers ready. But for next week, we're gonna continue building out our API routes, start defining exactly what we need for our iOS application or Angular application to interact with the server. So I would say in the meantime, read up a little bit about Express. You can go online and get documentation. We're using Express 4. So as you saw today, we had some weird parts when we were installing it. So read up about Express 4, what are request response objects. We will talk about it in more detail next week, but the main focus is going to be creating the routes and creating the basic template of our Angular application. So if you don't have experience in HTML, just take a peep at it, understand what the DOM is, but that should be all.
Oh yes, and also join this Facebook group if you haven't already. This is a Facebook group specifically for you group of people who are attending these workshops, and it's a place for you to ask questions to each other. It's a place to get help from instructors and mentors as well.
And anything you guys would like to see next time, maybe us for slow it down, more detailed descriptions of certain topics you cover or words we're using, would anything help make it better for you guys?
As well, like this is an 8-week series. So like this is our first time running an actual course-like series of workshops. So any feedback is very helpful. And at the end of the 8 weeks, we'll have a course eval for you guys.
By the way, you guys want us like stick us in
Yes, I want it, bro.
Thanks, Bob.